All right, so Chris writes in, long time, first time. Question is, I work for a union and we have a health medical savings plan that we can't roll over or invest it. If you and your wife were retiring at 60 and were in good health, what do you believe your balance should be to get you throughout Medicare and the rest of your life? I will need to pay out of that plan $1,200 a month for insurance until 65. Okay, so I'm not sure what he's talking about in terms of how much. I don't know what he's talking about, frankly. But let me share what I use for health insurance costs. All right, so basically, if your income is above Obamacare subsidies, I basically say it's about $1,500 a month, so $18,000 a year pre-Medicare. If you're not getting the Obamacare subsidies, it's about $18,000 a year. Now that is going to be subject to lots of different things, your state, your zip code, the whole thing. But that's what I use, $1,500 a month pre-Obamacare, pre-Medicare. If you're getting Obamacare subsidies, I usually still just reduce that to $500 a month. Now, it could be significantly lower. It really depends on the circumstance. But generally speaking, I like to overestimate as opposed to underestimate. All right, so once you're on Medicare, there are four things you got to know. You got Part A, Part B, Part D, and then a Part C or a supplemental policy. All these numbers are the same for everybody unless you make too much money. And too much money is basically $100,000 if you're single, basically $200,000 if you're married. All right, then you have to pay more for Part B and Part D. Most of us aren't going to have that worry, so we're just going to talk about the basics. Part A is free. That's a hospital insurance. All right, Part A is what you pay for FICA under OASDI-HI. So old age survivor disability insurance, and HI is hospital insurance. So the 7.65, you're paying 2.65 or 2.45. I think it's 2.45 in HI hospital insurance. So Part A is actually go into the building, the hospital. Part B is you haven't paid anything for. That is your monthly premium. And that roughly is about $150 a month today, roughly $150 a month. And that's going to change, adjust with inflation. I'm using a 5.5% inflated amount each and every year. So $150 today times that by 5.5%, so it'll be whatever it is next year, times by 5.5%, whatever it is that year. So I'm using a 5.5% inflation adjustment for Medicare or any kind of health insurance, healthcare costs. So in that case, Part B is $150 a month per beneficiary. So Chris and Joni each got $150 a month from Part B. All right. Then you get Part D, that's your prescription drugs, and that's $50 a month. All right. And that again is adjusted at 5.5% clip. So Chris has $200 a month. Joni's got $200 a month for Part B and Part D. Now, always remember, Medicare doesn't cover, it's not free. These fools out there, Medicare is free. We should expand Medicare. It's stupid. There's no money for Medicare. It's broke right now. So Medicare costs a lot of money. And by the way, Medicare only covers 80% of the bill. You are still on the hook for 20%. Let me let the dog out. Dogs, love them. Love them, but still. All right, so with Medicare, because you still have this 20% gap, you're going to want to buy either a Medigap or a Medicare supplemental policy. This is the exact same thing, synonymous. A Medigap, Medicare Sup, MedSup, all the same thing. And look, it took me forever to understand this. Don't freaking freak out if you don't get this right out of the gate. But anyway, so that will cost you roughly, I use $150 a month in that regard. It depends on your zip code and all that stuff. It really depends on the state. But generally speaking, I use $150 a month for Medigap / a Medicare supplemental policy. All right, so you got your Medigap $150, your Part B $150, and then your on top of that you got your Part D with prescription drugs. That's $50. So between that's $350 a month. Now I still use $150 a month for out-of-pocket co-pays, co-insurance. You still got you got to get ears, eyes, and dentists. None of that is covered by Medicare. So I use $150 a month for that, for just out of co-pays and whatnot. So when all said and done, we use $500 a month per person, adjusted at a 5.5% per year clip. All right, so if a husband and wife, Josh and Charlotte, we are spending $1,000 a month on Medicare. Hope that makes sense. Now, if you're a federal employee health benefit, if you've got TRICARE, some of you guys have union gigs, it changes for everybody. Some will want to maybe buy, instead of Medicare supplemental policy, they might want to buy a Part C, which is a Medicare Advantage. I actually like the supplements because if you're going to do any traveling, any doc who accepts Medicare is in your network, if that makes sense. Whereas in Part C, Medicare Advantage, is like an HMO. Now, a lot of people are very happy with Part C. It's a lot of times it's cheaper, if anything, relative to to get your Medicare supplemental policy. I don't know enough about that. That would be something you talk to Danielle Roberts over Boomer Benefits, or Jaeoh up in Michigan on just jo.com. Maximize your Medicare. MaximizeYourMedicare.com. I'm not an expert on that, but generally speaking, Part C, Medicare Advantage, is cheaper than Medicare supplemental policies. The difference between HMO and an in-network for anybody. Hope that helps. Thanks for the question.